right, breaking news. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi is calling for an ethics investigation into an allegation against California Representative Tony Cardenas. CNN's Maeve Reston has been following this story for us. What more can you tell us, Maeve?
Well, Fred, this is a really complex case. Basically, what happened last Friday was that Lisa Bloom, a very well-known lawyer in Los Angeles, filed a lawsuit against an unnamed politician saying that he had sexually assaulted a then 16-year-old girl in 2007 and while driving her to the hospital. The allegation is that this politician was playing golf with this 16-year-old girl, handed her some water that tasted unusual. She collapsed, and then he insisted on driving her to the hospital. While driving her there, this alleged sexual assault took place. Now, many news organizations had been chasing this, obviously, because the details in the complaint pointed to Representative Cardenas. He came out, his lawyer came out on Thursday and said that he was indeed the subject of these allegations, but that they were 100% categorically false. So that's where it stands now. He's going to fight them. He's obviously up for re-election. And so this really potentially puts Democrats in a bind with, in the political climate of the Me Too movement, which is what this young woman said inspired her to come forward, because they could potentially lose this seat in November, depending on how this ends up in the court of public opinion.
And then, Maeve, timing. Of course, Cardenas's camp would ask about timing, and it is the logical question. Why now?
Well, certainly you have to wonder about the political ramifications here. Cardenas certainly has his political enemies out there, and he is suggesting that the victim may be the subject of manipulation by her father, who was a longtime former employee of Tony Cardenas. We have attempted to reach the father in every way that we can. Have not been able to get comment from him on those allegations by Cardenas, but clearly there are lots of political headwinds here. And the next step will be a hearing before a judge who will decide under California law whether this case has the merits to go forward. And at that point, his name would become public in the court documents. So Cardenas has only responded in that lengthy statement saying that these are categorically untrue and that he is basically potentially being falsely accused here. Fred.
Maeve Reston, thank you so much. All right, let's talk more about this. Joining me right now on the phone, the attorney for the alleged victim, Lisa Bloom. All right, so Lisa, while the complaint filed says it was an elected politician, and now you've got the House Minority Leader, Pelosi, saying an investigation needs to involve Tony Cardenas. Are we talking about the same person? Is he the elected politician?
So I filed this case over a week ago very carefully under California law, which allows child sexual abuse cases to be filed later in life under some very specific rules, and that's what we're following. And one of those rules is that we have to name the defendant as a John Doe until the court gives us permission to put his real name in the case. So that's the reason why I have not been able to confirm or deny the identity of the defendant. I have to say it is very curious that even though we have not named him, that Mr. Cardenas has come out and said, these child sexual abuse allegations sound like they're against me. That's one of the more peculiar situations I've ever heard of. Nevertheless, we are waiting for the court to grant us leave. Then we'll follow the procedures, put the proper name of the defendant in the case, and go forward from there.
So yours is a civil suit.
Yes.
Pelosi is talking about an ethics investigation. How might the two complement one another or conflict?
Well, assuming that it is a U.S. congressman, which I'm not confirming or denying at this point because of the California law, I would say that I have not had good experiences taking my victims before the House Ethics Committee. I represented Marion Brown, who accused Congressman John Conyers of sexual harassment just a few months ago. You know, we had a lot of what I consider to be very poor treatment from the House Ethics Committee. There are not rules set up to protect victims. There's a lot of silence. We can't get information. The hearings get canceled. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what her rights are. So, you know, until those rules get changed, I don't know whether I would want to take my victim in front of that committee.
And then, Lisa, the complaint is zeroing in on 2007, a 16-year-old young lady at the time allegedly sexually battered and assaulted. Just doing the math, now we're talking about 27 years old for this alleged victim. Talk to me about this elapse of time, because timing, of course, is, you know, the first question that anyone would have about, you know, why this is being pursued.
Well, you know, what all of the research about child sexual abuse tells us is that very few victims complain at the time. Most take years and years before they're willing to come forward. Some people take decades. I've had clients in their 40s, 50s, 60s talking about child sexual abuse for the first time, and that's especially true when the perpetrator is a powerful person. So thousands of women are speaking out now against sexual misconduct by high-profile people. My client is very determined to see this through, to get justice, to tell her truth, to tell her story. And that's what this case is all about. This is really the only legal way that she can go about this. The criminal statute of limitations has expired. The civil statute of limitations has not. And that's why we spent months and months behind the scenes, as we do with any of my cases. I have many, many cases of sexual harassment and assault, talking to her, going over her story, talking to her witnesses, looking at the corroborative evidence. I believe that she's very credible, and I believe that we have a strong case, and we're looking forward to getting into the courtroom and proving that case.
All right, Lisa Bloom, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.